That's a scene clap.
Sure was.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
I have no idea what I'm talking about.
I got you guys. Don't you worry. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Silver Age Media. It's been a while, but you know, we've been really busy. We've got a lot of content coming at you, and oh my gosh, am I so excited to say I'm here with a fantastic cast. We have my boss, the man in charge, Alex Splash. How's it going?
I'm here, man.
Yeah.
I'm buzzing right now.
But we have someone who's also pretty awesome. We have Master of Various himself, Charlie. What's good?
I like pie.
I mean, pie is pretty great. You got 3.14 right here. That's nice. Pie Day's a good day, isn't it?
Pie Day is the best holiday.
So we just
Go
got
with
back.
Christmas.
Oh, okay. Going with Christmas.
Go with
Too
Christmas.
commercialized. Pie Day's where it's at.
So we just got back from our premiere screening of Shazam. We all loved it, and this is what's going to go down. So right now, this video is going to be into two parts. This first half is going to be a non-spoiler review. After that, we're going to move into spoiler territory. We will warn you beforehand, put some stuff up on the screen so you will know in advance. And just if anyone that is just trying not to know anything about the movie before they see it, it is very possible that the non-spoiler review stuff could be seen as spoilers to you. So please be advised before watching the rest of this video. With that being said, let's move into a non-spoiler portion of Shazam. Off the top of your head, first thoughts. Alec.
Comedy was on point with what I was expecting. Emotion was a little more connected than I was expecting.
Yeah.
And yeah, that story kind of hit me a lot harder than I thought it would going into it. I didn't expect to have such an emotional reaction to some of the stuff there, but
Yeah.
Fantastic film.
Yeah. Charlie?
You know, Alec really nailed it on the head. I loved the comedy. There were some real moments that I wasn't expecting, and some of the themes that played out aren't my favorites, so I didn't like them, but they were really well done, and they told the story very well.
We'll have to get into that. I agree. Like, I was so excited for this movie, and I loved it. But I'm kind of like hell bent on the Endgame stuff, so I was trying to remind myself that I'm seeing Shazam and not Endgame when I was going into the theater. But as soon as it started, instantly hooked. Good start to the film, and like you said, it hit me in a lot of ways. But that's the best part about this film, is that it has the ability to take a bunch of emotions and attach it to you directly. Maybe not like in the exact same way, but like you can relate to it in some way. And when it hits you, you just know it, and that's what makes the film so great, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did a good job of tying a story together that has a lot of moving parts, things that if you're not already on board with the comic book material that you may not be directly plugged into, things that if you're seeing it for the first time might be overwhelming. I think they did a very good job of keeping it simple and putting a pretty little bow on top, especially considering this is what David Sandberg's first attempt at anything really non-horror.
Yeah.
Like, this is really his kind of breakout film from the horror genre, and though there are some elements that are kind of dark, there are some things in there, but he does a great job of embracing the lighter kind of I don't know what to compare it to. People said Big originally, and I get that.
There are a lot of moments that are directly from Big, and I personally appreciated it a lot.
Yeah, it's like it has some influence in there, but it definitely does feel like it embraces the lighter. Almost Zachary Levi's personality kind of takes over in a way. Like, that charm of his kind of infiltrates the movie, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, it definitely feels like its own movie. It doesn't feel like it's, yes, it has elements of these other films, but it certainly feels like its own personal movie. It's not trying to copy off of something like Big.
And the one worry I think we got into a lot beforehand was is this going to be DC's Deadpool? Are they just going to lean into it too much to where it becomes so self-aware that, like with Deadpool 2, it's like everybody has a joke that's kind of like pushing the boundary a little bit. I think they did a great job of containing that, telling a very good story with humor versus having a comedy movie that had a good story behind it. Like the difference of an Adam Sandler film to like something more like The Winter Soldier comparisons. Like, there were elements of both of those kinds of things that really pushed it along in a unique direction, I think. I think there's not really much to compare it to, but maybe Deadpool 1 gets the love story thing gets a little close, but like you said, they made a very unique film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm not a big comic book fan, and so I know, even now, I still know very little about Shazam. So I was just going into it with, I don't think I had any expectations. I was the chauffeur for these guys, basically. But I enjoyed it, and I thought that there were some moments in there that, in all the trailer stuff we saw was very lighthearted, very funny, and there were those moments that got away from that. I didn't know the director had done horror films before, and I can definitely see that influence, knowing that now, in some of those scenes that you don't see in the trailer. But overall, I think it had a good balance. It wasn't pushing, trying to be too funny all the time.
Right. It did not try too hard. And it wasn't trying so hard to the point that it just became like slapstick, like, okay, come on, another one. Mm-hmm. And I want to move into that a little bit, like with some of the characters and that we had in there, like, nothing spoiler heavy, but just like the main ones that we knew about. So Dr. Sivana, Shazam himself, and then Freddie Freeman, and Shazam Billy Batson. Like, all of those performances were great, honestly. Mm-hmm. Personally, sometimes I felt a little like weird because like I understand that I can't remember the kid's name who's playing Billy Batson. But again, Zachary Levi, I guess the screen time is a little lopsided, so I'm wondering, what did he do? Was he just like in the background, just kind of watching or something? Like when Shazam is on screen, or does he just like? It
kind of depends. I mean, they didn't really explain it through this film, which I don't think this is a spoiler. If it is, sorry. They don't really explain the personality thing. The origin of Shazam is that they did have a very split personality. Like, it was Billy Batson and then Captain Marvel. Like, that was the alter ego kind of thing. They shared a body, but they were inherently two different beings. It wasn't until I think like the 60s when that kind of changed, when DC brought back Shazam, it was out of the Fawcett's range.
And is that when they changed it from Captain Marvel to Shazam?
Technically, that didn't happen until the New 52.
Oh.
They just branded him as Shazam because they couldn't put Captain Marvel in the comic books.
Okay.
But he was still Captain Marvel. They just kind of avoided saying it.
But even then, Zachary Levi's performance was like, I think it was spot on perfect considering, like, we've seen some of the comics. Like, I read the New 52 version. It is very similar to that. The character, the charisma that he has as a character is very strong and is very witty and funny because he is supposed to be a 15-year-old. And Zachary Levi's performance was perfect, spot on. It's just like, in a lot of interviews, he's like, I just get to be myself. I don't have to pretend to be a kid. That's just who I am. I'm a giant man-child. And I was just like, all right, perfect. And then, help me out here. Freddie Freeman's character, the actor.
Jack Dylan Grazer?
Thank you, Jack Dylan Grazer. Is on point with just like the fanatic of like superheroes and just knowing everything.
He definitely has that like inside comic book nerd kind of spirit about him.
He is the guy in the chair.
Well, he also maintains the sarcastic, like, kick you in the ass when you need it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, personality, and I loved that because that is kind of the representation, I think, of the kids who grew up with these. Now we got it relaunched with the New 52 and all that. Like, there's changes, but for people who were very familiar with the characters, by like 2009, when we're heading into that new like relaunch, and we were getting to the end of some of the old incarnations of the characters, we were very familiar with how they acted. Like, there were very few stories that really shocked and like changed the way we thought about some of these comic book characters. Like Kingdom Come did the evil thing a little bit. Like, that's different, but in their main priorities, it seemed like these characters were not going to change very much. Mm-hmm. Like, Superman was Superman was Superman. You knew what you were getting anytime he was involved in a comic book. Batman, detective, kicks ass. Now, just like recently, we're having the does Batman kill? Is that acceptable conversation? Like, this new wave of change, I feel like we're going to be, we've already seen it be kind of hard for people to accept. And I think Jack Dylan Grazer kind of represents both sides of that in the, like, he is, like you said, the guy in the chair. Mm-hmm. He 100% has that kind of energy to him, the rerouting and, like, everything you need to know, the encyclopedia to this new Shazam. Like, if he has a question, he's kind of the leader situation. But that sarcastic, like, kind of kick you in the ass thing, I think it does develop out of this, like, space where you kind of have to realize that these are new characters. And his character, Freddie Freeman, in the movie, it's like, he is a good reminder of what the superheroes are supposed to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, there's obviously some stuff in the middle, like, won't get super heavy into it, but, like, there was a moment where I was like, oh, yeah, no, he's 100% the counterbalance to this character.
Absolutely. And that's what I want to ask you, since, yes, you are new to the comic book area, but I mean, you know the big names, you know the main ones. Shazam is moving off of that path a little bit. We're getting into the kind of the gray area of DC that a lot of people don't really know about, just based on the knowledge that you had prior, which I know it's not a lot. Do you think the performances matched with what you think should have been these characters?
So,
do I need to reword that a little bit?
No.
Okay.
That's
You're good.
So really, the only character that I knew anything about going into the movie was Shazam himself, and all I knew was that he was sort of a silly Superman,
That's fair.
Or a lighthearted Superman.
Nice.
That's my food.
And I thought he did that very well. It wasn't, his performances weren't heavy. But I like what Alex said. Freddie Freeman was a good counterbalance to that. And that was something that I was worried about. I think that had he not been that foil to the character to kind of keep him in check at times when he needed it,
right,
that it could have gone a lot more towards that Adam Sandler style humor.
Yeah, it could have been just like a bunch of comedy on top of comedy, and it was good to have that counterbalance for sure.
Yeah. Going into the other characters,
like Dr. Zavanna, pretty much what I expected it to be. Grudging evil guy.
Yeah.
Not much else to it. His performance was great. He was very good at playing the stone cold, just like, yeah, I'm here to take your powers. That's the whole point.
So I think that in the film, the one thing that I wasn't in love with in the theater, but am now starting to appreciate more now that I'm home and reflecting on it, is that Zavanna is kind of like, he's a multi-layered character, but for the purpose of this film, he only needed to show one side.
Right.
And I think they did a very good job of doing just that one thing. He doesn't have a whole lot of reach. We don't get a whole lot of extra out of him, but he is very good at being stone cold and laser focused, which in the theater I was like, well, there's a version of Zavanna that I like better than this. I'm not super sold on this interpretation until, like I said, I started thinking about it more on the way home, and now this version only called for that. We didn't need to see this other side of Zavanna just yet. And while I think we will eventually, because I think he's going to have some staying power, I hope to see him come back and...
pretty much in all superhero movies, you'll see the villain come back at some point. So,
yeah, it's like, if it's one of those cases.
It's good to assume that, we're pretty sure he'll probably come back at some point in some fashion.
Yeah, and it's like, I want to see if he does return, if we do get to see the kind of side that I was expecting to get a little more out of.
Right, but
so I think that would round out the character.
But either way, it is Mark Strong playing Dr. Zavanna, right?
Yes.
His role in the Kingsman movies is fantastic, and then this is a perfect counter to that. Going from him being like someone who's like the real smart tech on the good side to seeing the same concept, just pure evil.
Yeah, instead of being like the light-hearted and like willing to sacrifice kind of character, he's the exact opposite. He's cold, he's calculated, he knows exactly what's happening.
And he just does not care, and that's what I thought was so great about that. So kind of wrapping this up, just out of 10, what would you rate it from this first viewing?
First viewing, I'd say probably like an 8. But I don't know that it did anything that blew me away, but it was great. Like, it was a very good movie.
Okay.
I'd give it about an 8.5, which is pretty standard. Whenever we rate movies, I'm usually about half a point above Alec.
I was going to say, I'm thinking 8.59 out of 10 myself. I mean, yeah, sure, there are some things that I don't particularly like about the film. There are some great scenes in the film, like cinematography-wise, fantastic, and everything just plays out great. And we're going to dive into that a little bit more articulate now with the spoiler section that we're about to start.
Before we jump super heavy in there, I do want to ask, just of the villain kind of arc, just the way it developed.
Sure.
As Charlie, who doesn't know a whole lot about the character, did you feel like it was a solid, start to ending? Was there a good through line for you?
Right. Ignore that flailing that you just saw. Don't know where that came from. Couldn't have been me.
It was Zachary Levi, obviously.
Oh, clearly.
Strikes again.
Oh, I really liked Dr. Sivana's arc. You know, I know
You seem like the kind of person that would appreciate a villain like Dr. Sivana.
It was very clear cut, and from all the games I've played and the books I've read, and what I know about comic books, I know that I'm used to complex villains with multiple layers, and you see them in multiple ways at multiple times. But I thought that having a very simple, here is the villain, here is how he became the villain, here's him being the villain, and here's him losing in the end. Like, I'm sorry if that's a spoiler. Like, it's a superhero movie. The superhero wins. I thought that was a very good starting point for any future Shazam movies, but I think it was also very good. Kind of going back to what we were saying about balance, it was a very good balance for this new Shazam. Billy's still trying to figure out what can Shazam do. Who does he want Shazam to be?
Yeah.
And he's trying to figure out a lot of stuff about himself, and we'll go into that in the spoiler section. So I thought that having just a simple entrance into this world was a good idea, and I think it worked really well.
Okay.
And I think some of the stuff we'll talk about at the end of the movie and in the end credit scenes set it up well to be more than that in the next movie, so they can do something more complex.
Yeah, 100%.
Whatever that is.
All right. And yes, they get full spoilers, so signs are filing all of it.
So right now we're going to start our spoiler section. If you haven't seen the movie yet, go ahead, pause this, buy a ticket, go watch it, enjoy it, come back, finish the video, let us know in the comments what you think. Sit through the credits. There are end credit scenes. There are 2 of them. Don't miss those. So now, starting now, spoilers, starting right now.
Monster Society of Evil is coming to the big screen, and God, I'm so happy about it.
I don't know who that is.
We'll fill you up to speed. Let's go ahead. We'll start at the beginning. Let's kind of like work our way through some main points of the film. Honestly, the beginning of the film, I wasn't really sold on. It felt a little dry in parts, and it felt really odd. So, and my reasoning is, so I read the New 52 comic, and they said, for anyone that doesn't really know that much and they want to know, this is loosely what the film is based on. And for the most part, it was pretty damn close. The origin of Sivana in the comic is a lot different than what we see in this one. In the comic, for the most part, it's him trying to get the magic power to help his family.
Is that when he gets his eye with the lightning?
Yeah, he's trying to get his family back. And he has Black Adam there trying to help him. He's trying to gain all of the 7 deadly sins. Whereas in this one, he's just driving along with a magic 8-ball in his hand, shaking it up, just trying to ask a bunch of questions, and his dad and his older brother in the front seat, just giving them hell. And then he ends up freaking out. He ends up in the lair, as they called it, where the 7 were.
The Rock of Eternity?
Yeah, the Rock of Eternity. So the wizard there saw him as champion, but he went for the 7 deadly sins instead, cast him out. Big argument happens in the car. Boom, car wreck. Hit my PTSD just a little bit. I got over it. Honest to God, I almost got up. You got some pretty gruesome stuff out of that.
That was a little dark. Yeah. They definitely hit harder on the, you're going to be a failure kind of thing. It's emotionally, I was like, well, damn, Shazam, you just laid into the kid.
It's like, you're going to be a failure because you went straight for the 7 deadly sins instead of having my power of Shazam. And his dad gets sent through the window, and he's just demolished in blood, and he ends up being paralyzed.
I was say, that's physically, it gets darker, and he's gurgling,
and it just gets worse and worse. And then we come out to see, he's been searching his whole life trying to find this wizard to get the power back, and that is very similar to the comics. That whole thing with the screen, with everyone saying they've seen Shazam or whatever, and they're like, I don't remember where it was. I just know it happened. There's no connection between any of these people. And that is straight out of the comic. And I was from there, I was I know exactly the road this is going to take. I love it. I'm going to stop talking so I don't keep going. So you guys go. Thoughts?
I really liked the very opening scene when he had the opportunity to become Shazam and then failed. I thought that was a very interesting way to bring in that villain.
Okay.
Now, the scene with the abusive father and his older brother, that was one of those moments that it was well done. It built, I think it was necessary to build that character. He needed that anger.
Yeah,
that
and it was
jealousy
really different because in the comic he's already older. He's in I think he's in Egypt or somewhere out there in the desert searching for this power, and he ends up coming across Black Adam. And that's how he gets the power.
Is that what he's like searching for the tomb?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And then he sees the word Shazam and it strikes his eye with the lightning, and then Black Adam shows up. He's like, "Cool, I'm gonna kill everyone."
Yeah. I do think
so. We don't see him as a kid in the comic as opposed to now.
He's a full-grown adult, and that's typically how we see Sivana. We don't really see the younger.
So this version. was a really fresh take, and I imagine it's for what it is. I think it was a great way to introduce the characters. Like we just see this little kid, and I kind of thought it was Sivana from the start because I was just like
I was certain that
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure that I knew that that's how it was gonna start, but the path that it took to get there. No, I did not expect it.
I didn't expect the car wreck stuff, but I do think, like you were saying, it's a good way to introduce the character, especially since we didn't get Black Adam in this film in any capacity.
Yeah, and I thought we were going to. There was a lot of talk about a body double for Superman and a body double for Black Adam, but unless I guess they're talking about they do mention that there was a champion that failed, and we see like an outline of
and that's like the foreshadowing.
So I'm like, okay, I was like, okay, cool. I guess if that counts as Black Adam, all right.
Is that guy supposed to be Black Adam?
Yeah. So the way the story develops, quick catch up is Jimon Hansu's Shazam.
Sure.
Originally gives his power to somebody else.
Sure.
In the way, hoping that he did with Billy, he says, we chose poorly, the other council members. It's Black Adam. He goes crazy and kills everybody. Essentially.
Cool. And he's kind of like locked away somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, they didn't really explain it this time around, but the thought is that he's locked up and put away, or his power is locked away, or something to that degree.
Someone has to free him for him to take back what he's been doing.
Gotcha.
Because he's been Black Adam for like centuries.
Yeah, like 2,000 plus years, I think at this rate.
Sheesh.
So my thought is they didn't mention Kahndaq in any way yet. We haven't gotten that far, which is great. Like that's not something you could just dive into. Like
Fair.
That entire place and its whole the gravity it holds in the DC universe is like that's big. We need to develop the character. People need to be kind of baby walked into the Shazam mythology, especially since it is more magic than superhero.
I agree.
What's Kahndaq?
It's a place.
Where's Kahndaq?
I think it's supposed to be like Egypt, essentially. Like it's sandy and temple-y and ritualistic and all those things. So,
do they have Sith Lords?
Not yet. Remains to be seen. I mean, at this rate, Marvel is buying everything, or Disney is rather.
Yeah.
So it's a possibility. Hold on to that one.
But we get a good look at a opening arc for Dr. Sivana, and then we go straight to Billy Batson on the search for his mom, which was a big shock to me because like they don't mention that really in the comic at all. Like in the comic, he had like a picture of his parents. I don't think he actually like remembers them much. So seeing the arc of just like him as a kid with his mom at the fair or the circus or whatever the hell they wanted to call it, I'm pretty sure it was like State Fair, and then he like loses her in the crowd, and then like she just refuses to look for him and then leaves him there, and you're just like, well, that's kind of weird. Only to find out later on that she just kind of left him here because she was 17 and just like sees Billy with the cops that are trying to help him, and she's like, they're gonna do better with him than I ever can because I'm so young and all that. And I was just like, this is extreme. I mean, it's DC, so it still has to have the darker aspect, sort of, but this is a different style of that, leaving with child abuse and like abandonment. So there's like some heavy tones in this movie, setting up these two huge characters in the DC universe now.
I think that, yeah, in a way it does have to be. I don't think it has to be dark. It just had to be grounded. It had to be real.
I mean, I don't think they're necessarily aiming for dark, but the subjects themselves are not necessarily.
It's not light subject matter. Yeah, I'm just saying like it doesn't have to be necessarily like child abuse, dad paralyzed, dark. It just has to be a real situation that can happen, because Billy Batson's whole thing is he is kind of the everyman to the Batman and Superman, super rich guy or actual alien. It does do a good job of reminding you exactly what this story comes from, and that despite having these abilities, and particularly just receiving these abilities, and we're talking about a matter of days, he is still just this 15-year-old kid who's kind of on his own and trying to find a place not only in the world but just in his own life. Like he doesn't have anything he belongs to, and so he gets this new family, kind of adopted family foster home. I think they said 23 different places tried to take him in.
Yeah, he ran from foster homes in like 6 different counties. So many people were trying to take him in, and he was just like, he didn't want any part of it because he just wanted to try to find his mom. That was his entire life. And then he ends up finding his mom, and she's just like, hey.
Sorry, kid. Get fucked.
Yeah, pretty much. And it was really shitty. But, I mean, you know, we get the foster family, and we're introduced to the whole crew, and then we meet Freddie Freeman, who is the undeniable sidekick of Shazam.
Yeah, it establishes that right away, that it's like Freddy's the one that's geeked. Even the trailers were showing us, like, expect this to be kind of a buddy cop kind of situation.
For sure.
And I think they nailed that on the head. Even the whole family dynamic. We said this is spoiler reviews, so this is the real deep, dark one we're getting into. Like, this is the one you probably don't want to hear, so last chance, you're good. The Shazam family.
Yeah,
like,
the
coming out
Marvel family, Shazam family. I don't know what the actual coin term is for it now.
Should be the Shazam family now that they're officially rebranded.
Okay.
I doubt they're going to try to play and toe the line with any Marvel reference, especially this
that was in the comic. So when they were just like, I got an idea, and he takes the staff, and just like everyone else just like, yes, they're doing the thing.
I was worried that they were going to like just force that in there, if they were going to do it at all, like an end credits, like everybody touch the staff thing. And I didn't want it. I wanted it to be like this is an emergency situation. Mm-hmm. Let's figure this out organically and not just be like a fun Easter egg. So for it to come together and then have that moment where he's like, light bulb, try this. I was like, that's a pretty cool way to, one, introduce those characters that I wasn't sure we were going to see the superhero side of. Like,
yeah.
I was certain we were going to get the family aspect because that makes Billy more grounded and, like I said, makes him human again. But for them to get the powers, I was like, that's kind of risky in this DC universe. It doesn't have a whole lot of characters established yet. But if we can get the Shazam family and Green Lantern Corps, this thing's about to blow up
for sure.
way harder than it's done so far. Because we got 3 or 4 people in Aquaman really that have power. Like we got the Kings and sure, the Atlanteans are strong themselves, but for people who can really wield superpowers almost, we got a handful. This one, it's like, no, you got a lot. Like this is
there are 6 of you now.
It's like, yeah, not only is there just completely 6 new heroes, you also have Sivana, maybe another champion for the Sins eventually, because he does take the eye away, and then we're assuming that Teth Adam or Black Adam, he's coming at some point. Monster Society of Evil, this movie did a good job of leaving the prospects open for growth and also doing its own narrative thing with the family, with making it feel like the street level movie compared to Batman v Superman or Aquaman's whole ocean worldwide problems kind of thing. I think that's what really hooked me, was just that we got a more centered story, smaller budget, director taking a chance kind of thing, and yeah, I'm so geeked over this.
Oh, for sure. What did you think? Out of all of that, seeing the whole thing play through, what was kind of what did you grab onto and be like, yeah, this I like this thing.
So as soon as the older wizard Shazam said, "Open your heart to find your true power,"
yeah, that was a big moment.
I was like, all right, so definitely we're gonna run into. He's not going to find his mom, because if they wouldn't have put that much emphasis on the foster family, for him just to be like, oh, hey, there's my mom, gotta go.
Peace.
Yeah.
I mean, I did kind of think that his mom was going to be dead or something like that, but he was like, what was it? It was she's 2 train stops or subway rides away or something, and he just books it down the street. Mm-hmm. But let's back up just a little bit. Because I want to talk about, so he gets the powers of Shazam. He's like, Freddy, don't freak out. But I'm a superhero now. And then they go through all the test footage that we saw in the trailers of them testing all his powers. And oh my God, was it funny. The secret fire immunity test. He puts them in a box and just lights them on fire.
That was good.
Then he goes hobbling away, and he's just walking after
And
him.
the full scene of the robbery in the convenience store was fantastic.
He said,
like,
shoot him in the face.
He was like, this is your chance now. So he shoots him, and he's like, you have bullet immunity. That's fantastic. And he's like, wait. And he's like, shoot him again. He's like, yeah, can we get this on video? So they just shoot him in the chest a bunch of times. And Freddy's like, wait, we need to make sure, is it the suit that's bulletproof, or are you bulletproof? Can you shoot him in the face? And they just, bah, 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 bah. And he's like, it kind of tickles. You're dead. And he just chucks him out the window. And they finally buy the beer, which is what they're trying to do to start with. And he's just like, oh, it tastes like actual vomit. I'm like, yeah, that's about how that works.
I loved Zachary Levi's reaction. I was like, yeah, shoot me in the face.
Yeah, he's like, wait, what?
Hold on.
And then like earlier, like when he's like trying to figure out all of his powers, when they were working on the lightning, and then he sees that the person getting mugged, and he hops over there with what they're calling hyperspeed instead of super speed. And just like knocks him down. She's like, just don't hurt me. Here's some money. He's like, no, I'm trying to help you. And then like he's just like, we just made $72.
That was the part that, like I said, the humor did a very good job of staying consistent.
Yeah.
I don't think they like hammed any jokes in there that could have stayed out. That one was like, I did not expect him to just be like, all right, yeah, we made $72.
Yeah,
like,
and then he's trying to like make a bunch of money like street performing as a superhero because he doesn't know what else to do. And it's just like, that's like, you know, and it's important. There's a lot of ties in that too, because so he's out, you know, he's like, oh, I'm an adult now. I don't have to live with you guys. I can just do whatever I want now. I'm a superhero. So he's trying to like use all his powers for like manipulation to get money. And then, you know, he's like leaving the foster family behind that really wants to try to like help him out. And he's just completely ignoring it. So there's a lot of themes that play in this movie that are really important. And for some people, really close to home. But I think it plays out in a way that's honestly like really beautiful and really structured. And it just makes the film layered better the more and more you go.
Yeah, it feels like it adds depth as it goes and doesn't just remain, like you said, like a slapstick comedy kind of thing. That was what I was hitting on in the beginning, is like the Freddie Freeman kind of becoming detached from Billy and Shazam because of the whole kind of control issue, like who's doing what for what. Is this in for money, or are we actually going to be heroes? Like, you're just a show off kind of thing. And it's like,
yeah,
that really did like find a way to connect and hit harder than I'd expect it to, considering, like, I think if you watch the movie, you do see that happening. Like, you're like, okay, they're going to have some kind of fallout because they're just too conflicted over this new power. Like,
right, and that's, you know, what creates that good center arc in the film is that, you know, it's not always just going to work perfectly, you know. In the trailers, obviously, we're like, yeah, it works perfectly, but then you kind of see it does start to split a little bit, as it should, to help, you know, bring the purpose back for these characters to get back together, to be that dynamic duo that it is.
Yeah, it's like, at first, you know, he just got like literally some of the best superpowers you could possibly have, arguably stronger than Superman, Batman, all of them. Like, he is just the new thing, and yeah, he's 15. Of course, it overwhelmed him. But also at the same time, Freddy's 15 and hanging out with the superheroes. Like, yeah, he wants you to show up to lunch. Yeah, he wants to record all these tests and upload them to YouTube and like make money off of it. And then that infects like Billy's character, because I mean, he is like the homeless kid. Like, he hasn't had a whole lot his whole life. So when he's like, lightning in my hands, like, it's like that makes sense. That does make it feel, like I said, like a more grounded, brought in, down to earth film, versus being like immediately going into Shazam, Black Adam, Monster Society of Evil, all these 7 deadly sins. Like,
I was gonna say, like, I was just ready for it to get to Shazam, to see Shazam in action, but it took its time getting there. And now, thinking back on it now, I appreciate that it took the time to set up everyone before just being like, all right, here's the superhero.
Yeah, it made him find all of those abilities kind of on their own. You know, he has to do the speed check against the mugger. He has to check the strength, catching the bus. The lightning, charging the phones. He's learning how to manipulate that. It's like, there is a very strong element of discovery and questioning, both in the person that he's becoming with Shazam and the powers that he has. And that does a great job of keeping the movie on an actual incline the entire time, until you get to the carnival scene, the final showdown between Savannah, the Sins, versus Shazam. It's like, that puts it on like the roller coaster. Now you're like, okay, the family's in danger. They're actually starting to come together now. He's starting to really make these bonds. And then it tests that in a pretty like easy way. Like, you know, you can separate the Sins out. They each have their own battle to fight. You know, they're trying to run for their life, be distractions and help. Are they helping or hurting? It's kind of unclear at first. You know, they're putting themselves in danger. Is that more of a distraction for Billy? How does that play out? And they did that really well, to be like, yeah, they just got caught. Like, there was no chance. They tried to be helpful, but they are humans fighting the 7 like biggest dangers to Earth that you can possibly offer up. So, yeah, there wasn't much of a chance they were ever going to be super productive. And so when we do introduce the Shazam family, it does feel like an earned payoff. Everything comes together, and you're like,
I was waiting for this for so long. We got it. Yes. And I think, tell me if you agree, because I know you're new to the whole thing. Do you think it was better for the fact that like we got the Shazam family, that was nice, but they didn't linger on it. They had it, it happened, it was gone. They didn't try to spend too much of the movie being like, hey, there's 6 of these guys.
So I was vaguely aware that there were multiple Shazam-ish characters. I didn't know that they were the Shazam family. I think I had seen the silver or blue one before.
Okay, yeah. Like, hey, Freddy was blue and the silver one was Eugene.
I was like, that's not Shazam. That's what I'm going to call him. Don't know his name.
Yeah.
It's not Shazam. So I was kind of... The combination of him talking about finding your true power. Mm-hmm. And that showed up several times. I'm like, all right, obviously this kid's weakness is he doesn't have a family, so that's gonna be his big strength, and that makes sense. Like, I think that really works for a superhero movie. He's overcoming those odds. But the combination of that and seeing the 7 deadly sins, which I didn't know were bad guys in the DCU. I saw 7 statues. I was like, bet he's gonna fight those.
Very much right.
Those don't look like hero statues, because
those look evil as hell.
Yeah, when we first saw him, my first thought was, oh, past Shazams, and then we really saw him, not past Shazams.
It'd be a good guess though.
But my concern the whole movie, I was like, sure, there's Dr. Sivana, but there are 7 of those demons, and we've already seen that they can take physical form. Mm-hmm. How is one dude gonna fight 7 of those? Because if he goes 1-on-1 with them, or even 1-on-2 with them, that's still going to be 3-4 fights. Mm-hmm. And you can't have him just wipe all 7 of them out at once, because then what's the point of having the villain?
I was going to say, and I was thinking about that too. I was just because apparently it just seemed like, every time he tried to fight them, they would just puff into smoke and you couldn't actually hit them.
That was fake.
One of the parts I wanted to bring up, because I just thought it was so great. So, the character of Eugene, he is supposed to be Asian. He's played by an Asian actor. So when he turns into the super hero version of himself, bigger Asian actor
who is tall,
who is tank. He's ripped too, but they each get an individual power, and he gets the power of Zeus. So he's got the lightning. And when he's going after one of the sins, and he just straight up says Hadouken, he shoots lightning out of his hands. I was just like, absolutely. And then because they showed their Freddy and Billy playing Mortal Kombat earlier in the game when he was playing Raiden, and he was the actor character
Johnny Cage.
Yeah. So then at the very end of the fight, he sits there and just goes, "Fatality." Oh, guys, I got the voice too, and I was just like, why is this so great?
Something I mentioned to these guys right after the movie ended. I was thinking, how cool would it have been if they'd been playing Mortal Kombat 11?
That would have been
get them the early copy,
a demo version, yeah.
Yeah, and show us just on screen one of the brutal. Well, maybe not the most brutal.
I was gonna say you need to think that this stuff gets pretty rough.
Show us Raiden versus Johnny Cage, but just drop it there. Be people who know what Mortal Kombat 11 looks like and know the Mortal Kombat games. That one's for y'all.
That would have been a cool little Easter egg. I thought almost for sure that they were going to put an Injustice reference in there.
That would be funny, because we've seen Injustice in Arrow, and I thought that was awesome.
That was really good. But also I get why they didn't, because Injustice really kind of revolves around the death of...
Yeah, I was going to say, Shazam gets iced. So literally gets iced and then gets laser beamed.
Yeah, it's it kind of has to happen that way, so probably don't do that in his introduction.
But I mean, still, if it was playing the game itself, I'd have been nice.
That would have been hilarious to just have him fighting a Batman versus Superman situation. That way you can see just that, and you don't have to give the other context. But Mortal Kombat works; it suffices.
But going back to your question, I really liked that they did introduce the family at the end. Mm-hmm. They all went in to reach for the staff. I was like, okay, I've been waiting for this moment. They're all going to be Shazams. Didn't know that they were all going to have different power focuses. Didn't really expect that. I thought it was just going to be like 6 Shazams. But I like how they kind of turned that fight around. They went from regular people not able to fight these sins, demons, whatever they actually are, to Shazams, and like Hadouken, and like one of the girls was really fast, like Darla. Like Darla snatched like 4 people just from out in front of the sins.
Yeah, because she had the speed of Mercury, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think so. And so to see her, just her specifically, overcoming that, because she's she starts out as the smallest one. She's what, maybe?
She's got to be at least like 11 at the oldest.
So that's got to be high end.
I would say
she's at least like 8 or 9. I would say.
I would say like 7 to 8 is where I would have put my money.
Because she's super young.
She's super small.
Yeah. But to see her go from someone who's so vulnerable and who is really, I think, one of the key family members. Obviously, Billy has that relationship.
She's so
Freddy.
willing to have a family and just be willing to accept everyone for who they are. Yeah. And that's what I think is so great when she turns into like the superhero version. She's still like technically a kid. She's just like, guys, I'm like really fast now, and I just thought it was great. Last couple things I want to hit though. Were you about to say something?
I was going to say the way that Freddy was Billy's counterbalance. It was almost as if Darla was kind of the counterbalance to Savannah, who was very laser focused and evil and like determined for that thing, where she was just like openness and love and acceptance and willingness to have this family. It's like that was the bright spot to the 7 Deadly Sins dark kind of attitude.
Yeah, pretty much. The last 2 things I want to hit before we end this out. Let's talk about the end credit scenes, because so earlier in the film, Freddy's talking about how he's friends with Shazam, and the 2 main like bullies are like, well, you like bring him to lunch tomorrow. He's like, yeah, he's gonna be at lunch tomorrow. He's like, yeah, and is Superman gonna serve dessert or whatever? So at the very end of the movie, we have Shazam walks in. He's like, what's up, guys? I'm just here to eat lunch with my best friend Freddie Freeman, and everyone's like freaking out. He's like, oh, and I brought a friend of mine. And we see a body double of Superman walking. You don't see the face, but you see the chest down. He turns and sees him. He's like, oh my God. And then the movie ends. And I was just like, beautiful, beautiful. And then we get our first end credit scene, which is Dr. Savannah in prison, writing all the glyphs on the wall. And I thought he was going to like Black Adam was going to like appear right there. Because that's kind of how it happens. Just not in a prison cell in the beginning of the comic, at least. Mm-hmm. But we end up with Mr. Mind instead.
I love that because Mr. Mind and the Monster Society, I think, is some of my favorite weird comic book stuff, and that just gets me. It's the DC Sinister Six in a way. Like it makes me want to just like explore this whole new world of the magic side of DC that I think like Fate and Shazam and Black Adam, all of them kind of tie into. So that's unique in comics to me. Like, I don't think Marvel really does that. They kind of have the mutant side of things, and there's some kind of off-the-wall powered characters with, like, Adam Warlock and stuff that are kind of connected to magical ability. Doctor Strange does the kind of universal magic thing. It's like, they're great, and they're fantastic characters on both sides of the argument, but I really like DC's interpretation of, like, the ancient Egyptian style and influence that really kind of penetrates their mythology. And this is like very cool starting point for that, especially Black Adam and Kahndaq and like that Eastern stuff. Like that's awesome. But I really just like the weird animal monster society stuff. Like it's super interesting to me, and it gets nerdy and out there in the same way that I think that Nova Corps will on the Marvel side of things. And like we're as a comic book medium, like film as a version of it is becoming more wide and getting weird and going full Jack Kirby, and I'm so here for it. Like I'm just so damn excited.
But yeah, so 2 end credit scenes. So we had the one, Dr. Savannah going crazy in prison, writing the hieroglyphs on the walls, lost his mind. We saw Mr. Mind. We talked about the Society of Evil. It was fantastic. Then the second one is not really like an important end credit scene, but it's just there for the joke. And he's sitting there talking to the fishbowl, and it was the funniest damn thing. He's sitting there with a fishbowl, and he's just like, trust me, you'll find someone. There are plenty of fish in the sea. It's not working. And Freddy's just like crossing it off the list. And he's like, what am I supposed to be able to do with this? And he's like, well, call it the legions of the ocean. Like, someone else. And he's pointing at his shirt and he's got an Aquaman shirt on. He's like, well, that's just not cool. And I was just like, wow.
No, it was really good. A fun way to cap off the end of the movie.
I was just saying, I think it was perfect. But where do you think this movie takes place in the timeline?
It's in Philadelphia today, so...
Would it be after Aquaman? That right now, that's like the end point that we have so far.
Yeah, I would guess so. Like, maybe it's not. Maybe because we didn't see a whole like wide reaction to the new superhero thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's somewhere earlier, but it doesn't really change much, I don't think. So either way.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, the movie was spectacular. I love it so much. Still going to give it the 8.5 out of 9. Definitely want to see it again at some point, so we'll figure that out. But any closing thoughts?
No, I think I've said everything I want to say about it, man. I'm just happy.
I know we had some speculation on where we would see Black Adam, and obviously we didn't see Black Adam in this movie. Sadly. But I was okay with it because towards the end there, when he absorbs all the sins back into the eye, it looked to me like... I was trying to count them, and I must have missed one because it looked to me like he didn't absorb envy back in.
See, it did look like that, but all 7 statues were rebuilt at the end. So
and so that's where I was confused because I counted the statues afterward, and I said, "Oh, there are 7. They must have gotten them."
It did, because it did kind of seem like they left one out. I thought that was going to be an underlying thing they did.
I thought so too, until I saw the cutscene where it had Mr. Mind, and I said, they're clearly setting up something bigger or something on the same level that is next. So they must have actually gotten envy.
Right.
Because that would have been a really easy way to...
leave it open for him to come back.
Yeah, maybe not in whatever comes next, but in the thing after that, or the thing after that. Just have it show up, whether it's, the puppet master for the major villain or just a minor nuisance. Whatever it may be, I thought that would be cool. They're not going with that.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that happens in the comics. Like I said, I didn't even know... I have no idea who the Monster Society of Evil are. I didn't know that the 7 Deadly Sins were a thing in the DCEU.
It's pretty intense.
I'm excited for it.
I was going to say, yeah.
I'm the most basic level of movie fan for the DC movies. I know a little more about Marvel, but for DC, it's just... I'm here for the movies. I like it for what it has in the movies. I love Shazam. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. And I'm excited to see what they do next. Yeah. I haven't seen all of the DCEU, so I'm excited to see, 1, the other films there, but 2, how they tie that in going forward.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, it's left over for... There's a lot to come with Shazam. I know we're going to get more Shazam. Obviously, there's already some speculation online about Shazam 2 and when it's going to drop. Projected to be... they've already made $3 million from advanced screenings. I don't think the Thursday sales are up yet.
I don't think the final count will be up for a little bit.
But they're projecting low at 45-50 million. I think it's going to do a lot higher than that. But I mean, only time will tell with that one, and I guarantee we'll keep you guys updated as soon as that stuff comes out in another video. Probably we'll get the Thursday numbers tomorrow for Let's Talk Movies when that comes up on Friday evening or Saturday morning.
And we'll probably hit the full box office opening on Super Monday.
On Monday, absolutely, yeah. But that's pretty much it for our entire review of Shazam. If you guys have seen the movie already, and hopefully you just saw it before you watch the rest of the spoiler talk, let us know what you thought in the comments. We want to talk with you guys about it. Tell us what you like, what you didn't like. It's been a great time seeing the movie, good time having this review, and until next time, just remember, say the word Shazam.